The blind date was empty until a little girl walked in and said, "My mommy's sorry, she's late." It hit Jonah. Marison like somebody turned the volume down on the whole restaurant. The clinking glasses, the low jazz, the murmured conversations, all of it faded as this tiny kid in pink sneakers and a too-big hoodie marched right up to his table for two and grabbed his sleeve like she'd known him her whole life. "You're Jonah, right?" she asked, a little out of breath. Blue eyes way too serious for a 4-year-old. He blinked, checked the folded place card in front of him, then the empty chair across from him, then the clock over the bar. 19 minutes passed. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I'm Jonah." "Okay," she puffed. "Then I got the right guy." "Mommy's sorry. She said to tell you she didn't ditch you. She just got stuck, but not stuck like traffic. Stuck like important." The waiter walking by almost dropped a tray from eavesdropping. People at the neighboring tables started sneaking looks. Jonah felt his face heat, not from embarrassment exactly, more from how familiar that word hit, ditched. For a second he saw himself at 16 again, standing outside a movie theater while his dad's truck never pulled in. He cleared his throat. "And who might you be, ma'am?" The little girl straightened, clearly pleased at the respect. "I'm Lily. I'm 4 3/4. Mommy says the quarters count." She held up 3 fingers, realized that wasn't right, then added a 4th and gave up on the math part. Her stuffed bunny dangled from her other hand, worn down to almost gray, one ear barely hanging on. Jonah looked toward the entrance, expecting a flustered woman to come running, but nobody did. "Is your mom here?" he asked gently. Lily pointed toward the big windows that looked out over the street. "She said to tell you she's on her way, but she had to talk to a lady with a badge first, and then she said you'd probably be mad, and I told her I can fix it. 'Cause I'm good at people." She said it with such deadly seriousness that Jonah almost laughed before he caught himself. The old Jonah, the one from 2 years ago with the 3-piece suits and the full corner office, would have checked his watch, called his driver and left. No time for chaos. No time for kids with sticky fingers near white tablecloths. But that guy went down with the company logo the same week the headlines called him the man who lost everything. Overnight. This Jonah just sighed, pushed out the chair and nodded toward it. "Well, Lily, who's good at people? You want to sit with me until your mom gets in here before the waiter politely kicks me out for loitering?" She climbed into the chair, with the confidence of somebody who'd done this 1,000 times. "I can't be long," she whispered like it was classified. "My brothers will eat all the good cereal if we're gone too long." Somewhere near the door, a woman's voice called, a little frantic and a lot tired. "Lily, honey, please tell me you didn't just walk into the fancy place without me." The woman who followed, that little voice in looked like she'd run straight out of a long shift. Messy bun, denim jacket, faded dress, tote bag slipping off her shoulder. She spotted Lily at Jonah's table and let out a breath. "Kiddo, you cannot just walk into the fancy place without me," she said, then looked at him. "You must be Jonah. I'm Helen, and I am so sorry. A social worker grabbed me about one of my boy's meds right as we were leaving. First blind date in 10 years, and I still show up late." She gave a quick, awkward laugh. "That sounded way less tragic in my head." Jonah's mouth curved before he could stop it. "You're okay. Lily already handled your apology tour." Helen groaned. "She thinks she's my lawyer. Mommy saves kids." "I save Mommy," Lily said. They stayed. Once the waiter backed off, Helen sat like she hadn't really sat all week. She scanned the menu and murmured, "That's rent." "That's groceries," until Jonah leaned in. "Order what you want. I used to blow more than this on a tie. I don't even own the ties anymore. Let me do one thing right." Over soup and grilled cheese, they skipped small talk. He told her he'd run a company, made more money than was good for him, then watched it vanish when a deal blew up. "Now my name's a punchline online," he said. Helen didn't ask for details. "Losing something that big has to feel like the floor disappeared," she said. She told him about 5 foster kids in a 2-bedroom, bunk beds, cereal gone by sunrise, 1 bathroom, and constant yelling through the door. "People call me a saint," she snorted. "I'm not," I yell. "I forget picture day. Sometimes I hide in the bathroom and eat chocolate so I don't have to share. But every one of them showed up after somebody else quit on them. I just try not to flinch when they walk in." Something in Jonah loosened. After dinner, he walked them home to a tired block with cracked sidewalks and kids, bikes on porches. Inside, it was loud. Homework at the table. Cartoons in the corner, a teen giving Jonah the big brother glare. A hallway light flickered. Jonah tightened a loose cover, and it snapped on. Helen's quick. Relieved smile at that tiny fix followed him back to his quiet apartment, where for the first time the silence didn't feel peaceful, just empty. 2 days later, his phone exploded with notifications. A grainy photo sat on a gossip site, Jonah on Helen's porch, Lily on his shoulders, frosting on his cheek. The headline screamed, "Disgraced ex-CEO uses hero foster mom for image rehab." By lunch, strangers online were shredding them both. When he drove back to her street that evening, the porch light was off, though it wasn't dark yet. Helen opened the door only a crack. Her eyes were red, her voice thin. "CPS called," she said. "They're reviewing my situation because I let you around my kids. Jonah, they are my whole life. I can't risk losing them because your name drags trouble with it." He swallowed. "Helen, I didn't leak anything. I would never do that to you." "I know you didn't mean for it to blow up," she whispered. "But good intentions don't help when a caseworker's holding a clipboard." Behind her, a small voice trembled. "Mommy, is Jonah not coming back?" Lily stood in the hallway, hugging her rabbit. Helen flinched. She didn't answer her daughter. She just looked at him, all apology and steel, and said, "Please, just go before they find another reason to doubt me." Then she closed the door, soft but final, leaving him on the porch with the headline still burning on his phone like a verdict. The rain hammered the city like it was trying to wash the whole week clean. But nothing felt clean to Jonah Marison. Not the headlines, not the silence in his empty apartment, not the space where a little girl's laugh had echoed in his mind for days. He hadn't slept more than an hour at a time since Helen closed the door on him. And tonight the walls felt like they were leaning inward, heavy with everything he couldn't say. Her words kept replaying on a loop, sharp enough to bruise. "Please, just go before they find another reason to doubt me." He knew she wasn't angry at him. She was scared. And fear makes good people build fences higher than they ever meant to. By the third night, he found himself standing outside his dark living room window, watching the thunder roll over the skyline, gripping his phone like a lifeline he couldn't quite dial. A voicemail from his old business partner sat unread, someone offering him speaking gigs, image repair opportunities, all that fake charity, fake sincerity wrapped in polished sentences. Jonah deleted it without listening. He wasn't trying to make the world like him again. He was trying to figure out how not to leave two people he hadn't known long, but somehow missed like he'd known forever. The next morning was worse. Social media exploded with another headline. "CPS investigating foster mom after ex-CEO interaction." Comment sections tore. Helen apart. People who didn't know a thing about her calling her reckless. Irresponsible, chasing attention through children. Jonah slammed his coffee mug down hard enough to crack the handle, grabbed his keys, and drove straight to the only place he still had access to, a tiny local newsroom where an old journalist friend worked. He didn't walk in asking for favors. He walked in ready to burn the last pieces of his reputation, if that's what it cost. He told them everything, how he met Helen, how those kids weren't props, how she fought every day to give them a kind of safety most people take for granted. He didn't script anything. He spoke like a man who finally stopped pretending he was bulletproof. By the time the video hit the internet that night, it spread faster than the gossip ever had. People saw his hands shake, heard his voice crack when he said, "If protecting children is a crime, then lock me up first. But don't take them from the only home that's ever loved them." Comments shifted. Strangers defended Helen. Mothers and veterans and teachers and foster parents shared the story. CPS backed off under the surge of support. But Helen didn't know any of that yet. Not the press conference. Not the wave of strangers rooting for her. Not the moment Jonah's voice made the internet go silent like a church. All she knew was the sound of rain outside. Her window and 5 kids trying hard not to cry because goodbyes were something they knew too well. And when the storm hit its loudest, a knock sounded at the door, soft but steady, like a heartbeat coming back to life. Helen froze in the hallway, her hand pressed to the wall to steady herself. The kids peeked around door frames, their faces pale and hopeful. Lily clutched her worn-out bunny tighter than ever, the loose ear trembling between her fingers. Helen opened the door slowly, expecting a caseworker or another reporter. But instead there stood Jonah, drenched, hood pushed back, hair soaked flat against his forehead, and in both hands, plastic grocery bags filled with the most random collection of comfort foods imaginable. Ramen packets, microwave popcorn, off-brand chocolate bars, a pack of stickers shaped like stars, and a little sewing kit for the bunny's torn ear. He didn't try to smile. His voice was ragged, low, trembling the way someone sounds when they haven't spoken their truth in years. "I'm not here to explain anything," he said, raining water onto her welcome mat. "Not here to fix anything or sell anything or defend myself. I'm just here because, Helen, I would rather sit on your beat-up couch and eat 2-minute noodles with you and your kids than live another day pretending I'm someone I'm not." He swallowed hard, breath shaking. "I don't care what they write about me. I care what you think when I knock on this door." For a second, nobody moved. The storm outside swallowed every sound. Then tiny footsteps pattered across the floor. Lily stepped forward, looked up at Jonah with wet lashes and brave eyes, and did something she hadn't done for almost a year. She spoke. Not a whisper, not a broken syllable, an actual, crystal-clear sentence. "Please don't leave again." Helen's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling fast, almost disbelieving. Lily pressed her small palm against Jonah's chest, like she was holding him to the earth itself. The other children stared wide-eyed. One of the boys gasped like he'd seen a miracle. Jonah knelt, knees hitting the wet floor, and hugged her gently, careful not to break the moment. "I'm not going anywhere, kiddo," he whispered. "Not if you still want me here." Helen felt everything in her, the fear, the pride, the heartbreak, collapse into something softer than she'd let herself feel in years. She stepped forward, voice barely a breath. "You really bought ramen?" He nodded. "And chocolate that's probably not real chocolate," he added with a tired grin. She laughed through tears, wiped her face with her sleeve, and opened the door wider. "Then I guess you're staying for dinner." The weeks that followed didn't bring fairy tale perfection. Nothing magically fixed overnight. Bills still piled up, the bathroom line was still 20 minutes long, kids still yelled, and cereal still vanished like magic tricks. But now there was laughter mixed in. Jonah fixed bunk beds and loose steps and broken cabinet doors. He learned how to braid hair and how to cook pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. He read bedtime stories with all the silly voices he used to be too serious to try. And when the community center held a fundraiser to expand foster housing, Jonah stood beside Helen. Not in front of her, not behind, right beside. The applause felt different than any corporate ovation he ever had. Real, earned, family. One bright Saturday morning in the park, sunlight soft as honey, Lily knelt on the pavement with chalk and drew 3 figures, one tall, one medium, 5 smaller ones clustered around them. And above them, in crooked letters, she wrote, "My family." Jonah stared at it like it was the most expensive art he'd ever seen. He knelt beside Helen on the warm concrete, took her hand not with fireworks or speeches, but with the kind of steady certainty people build whole lives on. His voice wasn't grand or poetic, it was real. "Can I stay?" he asked quietly. "For every day that comes next?" Helen cupped his face in both hands, forehead resting against his, eyes closed like she was holding something sacred. "You already did," she whispered. Lily threw her arms around both of them, yelling for pancakes and dinosaurs and Saturday cartoons. And there they walked, Jonah on one side, Helen on the other, Lily between them, fingers tangled, hearts steady, 3 shadows stretching ahead like a promise instead of a warning. They didn't need labels or headlines or applause, because sometimes love doesn't arrive dressed, like a movie scene or a perfect plan. Sometimes it just shows up in the rain with grocery bags and refuses to leave. Thank you for listening to this heartwarming story. If it touched your heart, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a reminder. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who knocks, stays, and never walks away. Subscribe for more stories of kindness, courage, and love that stays.